Bedard has undoubtably impressed. He's shown us why he was the #1 pick, why he's a generational talent. It took a little time to break in, but the kid is the real deal. But he's still just that, a kid. He's certainly on the smaller side, and there has been an undertone of worry, for me at least, that it was just a matter of time before he takes a hit that really leaves him shaken up. And tonight, in what wound up being a chippy one between the Devils and Blackhawks, that's exactly what happened. So, as the Blackhawks came into New Jersey in a matchup between two of the best young talents in the league, let's get to it. Now, this one got off to a normal start. Chances on both ends, with Soderblom making some big stops early, but a slash from Johnson left Miller hurting a bit, and the Devils went to their first power play of the game. But as would become a theme, they couldn't get one to go, and so returning the favor, the Devils would go down a man as Ball tripping up Cini got him a timeout, and that gets us to this. Bedard with the entry, and Smith puts him down, and you do not hit Bedard without a response. Kurichev, Foligno both taking exception, Gutman in as a scrum would break out. But all the while, Bedard, holding his mouth, went down the tunnel as all of Chicago held their breath. Now, as things would settle down temporarily, let's take a closer look. Bedard's got his head up the whole way. He goes around Mercer, and now he's reaching for the puck. And I don't think he saw Smith behind Mercer, and in just a split second, as Smith steps up, Connor runs right into him, not expecting it. Now, in my opinion, this is not a dirty hit. Smith is just playing hard on the blue line, and you can't just let a guy, especially a Bedard-level talent, just walk into your end. He's got every right to defend here. But it is Connor Bedard. It doesn't matter if it's dirty or not. If he's leaving the ice, you better believe things were about to heat up. Connor Murphy would lay a huge hit on Hischier, as he definitely felt that one. Hawks retaliating a bit, but it was just the start. But first, Chicago would go to the power play, and after the Devils couldn't clear it, Vlasic to Dickinson puts it on net, and they score. His 13th of the year, and the Blackhawks were on the board first. Then a roughing call from New Jersey, and you could just feel the heat slowly turning up, with the realization that Bedard was still not back on the bench. With that said, as the first would come and go with some nastiness for sure, it wasn't until we head over to the second, where it was announced that Bedard would not return, that things really heated up. Not 3 minutes in, they get called for cross-checking. Then another penalty, this one on Bastian, and finally, the boys went at it. Vlasic, Donato, Mercer, and Bastian all get into it, and all would go for fighting and roughing, with Vlasic getting the instigator as well. Meanwhile, Smith and Tenorti had themselves a chat, but after the dust settled, at least for now, it was 3 for Chicago and 2 for New Jersey. But right at puck drop, it's Foligno and Smith scrapping it out in what was mostly a wrestling match, Foligno with a slap here, but with both exhausting themselves, this one was eventually split up, and the boxes filled up nicely as we had ourselves some old-time hockey, and we were only 5 minutes into the period. Not a minute would go by, and another big hit as everyone was finishing their hits one after the other, a lot of bones and flesh coming together. And then a penalty. This time it's Hughes and Cini as he would retaliate, and the Devils went to the power play for the third of the game. And while they couldn't get one to go, instead, even strength, Holtz to Nemes, back to Holtz, and the catch and release leaves us with a squared up hockey game, as this was a real pretty one. Holtz with his 9th of the year, and just like that, it was all squared up. Then Hughes trying to get inside, and he draws another penalty as Magna gets called for holding, giving them their 4th of the game, and after several attempts, no dice. So instead, how about short-handed? Kachuk in to the middle, and he scores. A wrister from the top of the circle, and he had something to say about it as the Devils went 0 for 5, but he had himself a shorty. While things settled a bit, the feistiness was still there, and wouldn't you know it, another penalty. We almost made it to the end, but they'd come together again, a little extra after the hit here, and Bastian called for interference. But finally, the middle frame that seemed to never end came to an end, with both teams continuing to chirp at each other. With that, a wild second gets us over to the third and final period, where the Hawks couldn't do much of anything on that power play, and so instead, Tierney to Nemes walks in and rips it to score his 2nd of the year, a big one here as he squares it up for a second time. Murphy would end up going to the box again as the Devils had a big opportunity now to take the lead, and almost got one to go, but yet they didn't, and they were now 0 for 6 on the night in what was a rough one for the special teams. But having said that, just seconds later, get out of their zone, Lazar finds McLeod, and with his 10th, he scores, taking the first lead of the game, and who needs the power play anyway? And as we neared the final 5 minutes, Hughes would go down, and he went down the tunnel. Nothing crazy here, no real contact, but he would also not return for the rest of the game. And so in the final minutes now, net empty, the Blackhawks pressed with a few good chances, but ultimately Tyler Toffoli with the empty netter seals the deal as the Devils, with their first home game of 2024, would come back with 3 in the third to take it 4-2 in what was a crazy game. Now, you really hope that both Bedard and Hughes are all right, as both of them are great young talents that need to be playing. But yeah, that's about it for this one. As always, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it very much, and I will see you in the next one.